Hello, my name is John Tarr from Best Website Solutions. Actually, it's bestwebsite.solutions. Anyways, I'm a graphic artist at heart and a photographer for over 40 years, but I build websites now and I use my graphic art skills to do some really cool websites. Um, what I'm going to teach on today is I worked for a not a graphic art, but a ad agency, and I would build all kinds of different ads for them. So I got to be pretty good with all kinds of different techniques. And I use Illustrator when I was designing these ads, but they also hired me to do some very cool social media graphics too that would combine photographs with images. One of the things that I found out very quickly is if the photograph was busy in any way, let's say this one right here, we'll make it a little bit bigger here. If it was busy in any way, it would made the text very hard to read. And as you can see, I came up with a technique all on my own to allow that to, so the text could be on top of a real busy image and you could still read it with no problem. You can actually do a technique and have the outline of the text, but it was very limiting and didn't allow you to do a lot with it. So I'm going to teach you another technique today that would allow you can change the background color, you can change the background size a lot easier than if you were just trying to use the type tool. In my opinion, Illustrator is probably the best program to work on this, even though you can do it on Photoshop, InDesign, and probably many other type of softwares out there. But Illustrator is very intuitive and allows you to go from layer to layer very quickly. So this is some of the things that I did. And you don't have to, as you can see where it says Our God Reigns, it doesn't have to be one type of font. It can be all kinds of different things here. And it helps it to stand out. You would lose a lot in a translation here if you didn't have that little bit of black that's going on right there. And here's one that has a lot of busyness in it here. This is actually an image of my son and my grandson. He is teaching him how to do certain things. So this is a very cool. So many times I will then find uh, a very cool saying, and then I'll either use one of my photographs or I will go and um, to a photo stock agency and find something. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to start a new. So we're going to make this a 6-inch. This is an Illustrator by 5-inch. I'm going to hit OK, and it's going to give us our palette right here. And I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so I can bring this in here. And I'm actually going to bring in this flower shot is going to go, and I'm going to bring some text over here onto the right side. So what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to bring this screen off here just a little bit, bring this back to here, scrunch this down just a little bit, and I'm going to drag this photograph and put it right on the canvas here. It came out very big, so I'm going to make the canvas smaller here, smaller, 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 and now I'm going to shrink it down so it fits within the confines of the background on here. So here she is. She's still too big, so I'm going to shrink her down a little bit more, even. If I go up here and the picture's on here, but I can't see how much of the palette is showing, so I can actually go down here to opacity and shrink that down. And it'll take the image, and as you can see it here, so it's not really fitting, so then I can actually go here, move this guy in here on the edges where these little boxes are, and that will then give me a pretty good idea where this is lining up on the boundary of the palette. So as soon as I get it to the exact spot I want it, then I bring the opacity back. Okay, and there we have it. Now we can click out of that. Now the image is sitting on top of Illustrator right there. The very next thing that you want to do is, I'm going to pull that palette out of here. I'm going to bring up our toolbar right here. I'm going to go to the text tool right here. And that's going to allow me to take and maneuver that. I found a quote, and this was by Marcus Aurelius, believe it or not, the old Roman emperor. So I'm going to bring in something he said and put it right on top of this right here. I'm going to use the tool here to make it a little bit bigger and bring it into about here. And then I'm going to use the text tool. And I'm going to make a text space. Doesn't matter how or where, just get it going. You can see that blinking light there. It means that's where it's going to be brought in. So I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to paste the saying in here. And then when you get it to this point here, you can make it anything you want. It's at Myriad Pro right now. I'm going to make it a little bit darker. Let's do something that's kind of semi-bold italic. See what that looks like. You got to highlight the text first, and then it made it that way. I'm going to go a little bit bolder, and then we've got it to this degree. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shrink this down, and as you can see, it changed all of that. And I have found too that it's better, or many times, is to bring it up, and right over here into the paragraph you can then make it center justified. And that's really up to you how you want to do that. I'm going to come back here to the left side justified. Bring my toolbar back here, and I'm going to bring this in just a little bit. But I think this text is going to be a little bit too small. I'm going to bring this in here, and I'm going to change the color on this guy. So I'm going to bring it in as kind of a yellow. But you can see it's going to be hard to read even then, you know. So first of all, let's make our text a little bit bigger here. So let's go Myriad Pro, bold italic, and we're going to make it a little bit bigger. So let's go. As you can see, it's getting much bigger. It's getting close to where we want to go. Also, I may not like it being too far over there, so I'm going to move part of the rows over, just extend it, and now we can have it sit right here. But as you can see, it's still going to be somewhat cluttered in the background here. One of the other things I'm going to do is I don't like this little part here. I'm going to make this bigger here, and then I'm going to go here, and actually it looks like a good cutoff right there, and then we'll leave it just about like that. Now it needs, whenever you see this little box here on the bottom, it means there's more text there. So if you take this guy, you'll come down and you can bring it up like that. I think Marcus Aurelius is too big, so I'm actually going to just highlight him, and I'm going to shrink him down just a little bit. Oh, too far. We'll come back to here. Now we'll be able to see it. Okay, so there's a text. I think it may look pretty good just sitting here like this. But now here's the technique I came up with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this text box, and I'm using a Mac, so I'm actually hitting the Option key with my left finger, and I'm dragging it so it's making a second saying. Okay. Now, I'm going to make the text in yellow, but it's not standing out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click this and make it black. So this guy is going to go black. See? It went black there. So that's going to be our background. Now, that's not going to work well. And if I look on my layer palette right here, you can see the photograph is on the bottom. The yellow is next in line and the black is on top. These two have got to be switched. So all you got to do is click the top one and bring it to the bottom one. And now, if I take this guy right here, it'll switch, but you can't see anything there. So I'm going to pull that out of there. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this guy bigger. So it's going to be, let's say I'm going to go 225. Nope. Let me hit, okay. I'm actually going to go down to stroke down here on the very next thing. See, these are identical. So I'm going to go to stroke and I'm going to give it a weight. Okay, that's too much. 125 was too much. I'm going to bring it back down to, where's she at, 625. Let's go to 330 and see what we get. So now I'm going to drag this on top of it and put it like that. See, you can see it poking out. I think it's a little bit too small yet, so I'm going to, but I think it's sitting at 313, and I think 625 may be too thick for it, but let's see. Let's put it right here like that. Might work. So the way that you then bring both of these together so they're one unit is you scroll outside both of them and let it hang out right there, and then you go up to object and you hit group. Okay, that's very important. Now they're one unit and you can move them all over the place and they'll stay together. So now if I take this and put it right up here, you can see how much better this looks. You can see the black as a background, so I think it was probably the right size. And I'll click this out of here so you can see it. So now you can actually read it. The whole thing is right there. The black gave it a background palette to keep the confusion from what was below it. You can go into your layers and then go down to stroke and make a switch. The stroke's not showing up now because these two have been combined to make the same thing. So then the next thing that you need to do at this point is you want to save this. So this is on Illustrator, and I'm going to tell it to save Illustrator, and this is where she's going to go. I'm going to tell it to go to my graphics. Okay, and I'm going to tell her to save right there, and she is. When I hit this, it saved the Illustrator program, and then you can save it somewhere else if you want to. If you go to Save As, you can tell it to go to another location too. Let's say you want to make it go onto your desktop, and I'm going to save it there to my desktop. And so I'm going to have the Illustrator document in two places. But you can't do much with an Illustrator document. Just go back and make some changes. So then I'm going to go down here to Export, Export As, and then this will come up. Down on the bottom it will say a ping, use artboard. You want to click the artboard because it will record everything on the outside of it, but I don't want it to do that, and I really want to make a JPEG out of this. So then I'm going to hit it here, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it Rose and quote. And then I'm going to tell it to export. Immediately it's going to come up here, and if you're going to put it on the internet, you're going to want to make it an RGB. For some reason, it really kind of screws it up. And CMYK. CMYK is for when you're printing. RGB is the color combination for internet, websites, social media, things like that. And then it's asking me what size I want to make this guy. So you can make it a screenshot 72, which is made for websites, internet, things like that. But I usually make a high JPEG, a 300 DPI. I'm going to click that one. I'm going to hit OK. And then we're going to go in here. We got to find out where she's hanging out. Here she is here. You can hear it going off there. And now here is the JPEG of the finished thing that we made. Isn't that cool? It stands out. It's easy to read. You can make the background black. You can make it red if you got a black background, yellow. Do anything you want. I like yellow a lot of times, but sometimes I go to white. But as you can see here, this all really stood out really well, even though it's a very confusing shot with all the flower all around it. But it stands out and it allows you to really read it. So I hope that is very helpful for you. Remember, that's Illustrator. There are other programs that can do this. Photoshop, you can do it, but working in layers in Photoshop, it, to me, is very hard. I know there was a lot of guys that worked on ads that used Photoshop, but just working on layers in there was very tough, and I didn't like to do it. InDesign works similar to this, but it's just Illustrator, just the way to go. So there you have it. I hope that this helps you. Remember, my name is John Tarr, and I'm from bestwebsite.solutions.